morning, everybody, and welcome to the Global Manufacturing Summit here in Abu Dhabi. This really is a very exciting time for us to be here talking about manufacturing and industrialization and innovation. There are a lot of trends right now, a lot of things going on in the international arena, in technology and in business that really mean that manufacturing is playing a more critical role than ever, having a very big impact over people's livelihoods and over our economies, and also that manufacturing in the future is likely to look very, very different to how it looks today. There's a lot of uncertainty, and there are a lot of different paths that the world could follow. What we have here during the course of these next 3 days, we have leaders and influencers and policymakers from government, both elected and civil servants, from the private sector, from businesses, and also from civil society and the non-government sector. So we have a great opportunity to bring all these different perspectives together and have an honest and open discussion about what manufacturing is today and what we need to do to make sure that manufacturing is a positive contributor to the future. Just before I begin on the content, I'd like to, on behalf of our co-chairs, the UAE Ministry of Economy and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and our co-hosts, the Department of Economic Development, I'd like to thank His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, and the Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces, for the patronage that he has given to this, the very first Global Manufacturing and Industrialisation Summit, a summit that we hope is going to become the first in a series of events where every 2 years we will come together and have a critical global discussion about the topics around manufacturing and industrialisation. Thank you also to all of our event partners, the speakers, our sponsors, and all of our delegates, of course, for being here today. It's great, it's really real pleasure for me to be here in the UAE again. The last time I was here was in November, speaking at an event in Dubai put on by the Dubai Chamber of Commerce, which is looking at investment opportunities between the UAE and Latin America. We were all ready to discuss that topic, but the conference was actually on the day that we found out that Donald Trump had been elected President of the US. So I think it's fair to say we weren't all that focused on investment opportunities in Latin America, but had become a bit distracted by the election results. But just a few short months ago, so to be back here and to think about how different the world is in just those few months later, and how actually manufacturing has really moved up the agenda. That was a big part of Trump's campaign. Of course, not everything he said was necessarily sensible, but it certainly shows that manufacturing is back at the heart of public debate and of policy making globally. So this is an excellent opportunity for us here to seize that moment to really have an influence. I'd like to just paint 3 scenarios for the future, just to think about how manufacturing and industrialization are going to contribute towards our future. So we know that trends like automation and robotics and artificial intelligence are really changing the way that manufacturing happens. We also know that many big emerging markets, places like India, like Nigeria, are looking towards manufacturing to develop, to industrialize, to improve the standards of living for their people in the same way that Japan earlier on and China in more recent years have taken industrialization as that path towards prosperity. We can imagine a world where all these developments result in higher levels of efficiency, workers are able to be more productive, machines and AI give us more free time. They mean that we don't have to transport goods such big distances because of 3D printing. We can reduce emissions. We can have access to a wider range of goods at a lower price. We can have more leisure time, and we can have higher incomes. That sounds like a pretty great world, and one in which manufacturing can allow us to achieve. But it doesn't have to be like that. We could also have a world where machines take people's jobs and there's no methods for redistribution of income. So instead of sort of mass prosperity and an increase in living standards, we could in fact end up with mass unemployment and really huge levels of inequality in our societies, as those people that own the technology and own these machines that are taking on more and more of people's jobs keep that income for themselves. Governments don't get involved. mass unemployment in urban areas, and a widening of income inequality both between countries and within countries. It's not certain that all of these trends we see in manufacturing are going to have a positive outcome. They certainly could, but they don't have to. So the question I'd like to pose to this audience for the next 3 days is, how can we make sure, as governments, as civil society actors, as corporations, how can we make sure that manufacturing makes a positive contribution to the future? It's actually in our hands to try and make sure that that happens, but it won't happen unless we take actual active steps to make sure the policy settings are right and to make sure that corporates are acting in the right ways so that manufacturing is a force for good in the world rather than a source of fear and unemployment.